Hey, what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. All right, I want to talk about Blake Baker. Real quick, though. Yeah, no, let's actually get into Blake Baker. So, again, Wilson Alexander had a great write-up, Jake, on Blake Baker today and how he ends up back here at LSU. And it kind of gets your brain spinning a little bit, right? Because it took real courage to make the move that Baker did. And some of y'all are going to hear that. You guys say, what are you talking about? They're paying him $2.5 million. Mizzou was matching. The money was immaterial. The money was the same. So at the end of the day, Blake Baker had to choose between a place in Mizzou that was already comfortable, already successful, just inherently has less pressure. People are already very static with you. You're damn near best friends with your head coach and Eli Drinkwitz, with your boss. And you have to choose between that or coming to LSU and not just starting a reclamation project, right? Taking over a defense that is an abject disaster and shambles. But you have to take over that defense, Jake, and then you have to live up to a $2.5 million expectation and live up, and that's the immediate, and you have to live up to the shadows of the past. I mean, some of the greatest defenses in college football history put on the purple and gold. Well, nowadays, if you're 8 years old or something, you may think of LSU as being an offensive team. For most people, this is still a school and a program defined first and foremost by its defensive identity. And that's what Blake Baker has to live up to. So here he sits. He's comfortable. He's happy. Everything's going great at Mizzou. 11-2. Defense is awesome. Got all of his players. Got a lot of guys going to the NFL. Same money offered from both schools. And he makes the decision to challenge himself, to not stay comfortable, to go and accept the pressure of taking that LSU job and taking on both the immediate expectations and the burden of the past. And this is now, Jake, Saturday. This is his first opportunity. This is his, I mean, look, USC, yes, whatever, but this matters more. I mean, this is SEC, this is Ole Miss, this is Saturday night in Death Valley. This is a game last year where we've never seen a worse defensive performance. I mean, guys, I think it was something like 1,300 total yards between the two teams last year.
I mean, LSU had 700, so
there was
that makes sense.
700 and couldn't get the 10 that you needed at the end, but 1,300 total yards. Like 60-something first downs or something or another. Like, this is different. This is the first major test. And this is the chance for Blake Baker, Jake, to start to write his legend.
It's certainly that. And not just Blake Baker, but the entire defensive staff. And, Corey Raymond's certainly been here during big moments, but now he gets a chance to write a new legend. He gets a chance to have, another part of his story be formed here in this game, because all the talks about Ole Miss and the receivers and what they've got going on, and you're young at defensive back. And so, like, even a guy like Corey Raymond, who has been here for multiple national championships, he can write just another chapter in his long story. So there's so many different things. Bo Davis and what he's done in his career, and former LSU player. So it certainly starts with Blake, but it's the entire defensive staff. And you went out and you overhauled everything, honestly, because of games like last year. Like, you never want to see that happen ever again to the LSU Tigers. And so
spent $10 million because of games like last year.
Yes. I mean, you should never have 700 yards of offense and lose a football game. It should just never happen.
Actually,
you shouldn't have 3 first-round picks on one side of the football that are, like, right now, 3 of the best rookies in the NFL.
Dominated.
Right? You have 2 receivers that are in the top 7 in receiving yards in the NFL. One of them missed the game.
Their quarterbacks are Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly. And then you've got Jaden doing Jaden things, right? So all of that coming together for this moment, you're exactly right. Like, this is the moment where all eyes are going to be on the entire defensive staff and certainly Blake Baker and how he handles it. And we're looking at how aggressive is he going to be, because he's been aggressive. You know, we're talking about the blueprint of what Kentucky was able to do against Ole Miss and what their front seven was able to do. Can you replicate that? So, yeah, USC was a challenge. You played pretty well against USC.
Yeah, you really did.
This is going to be
with a completely different personnel group than what you're going to be bringing to bear on Saturday.
Yeah, we talked about it. There's guys that played 50 snaps in that game that might not play in this game.
Yeah.
There's guys that played 2 snaps in that game that are going to play 50 plays in this game.
And that's another reason why I think this is even more of a legitimate test than that first game. Is now you know your personnel you're working with this year. You've had the ability to kind of shrink the rotation to figure out. And look, let's be honest. One line that we've been dropping a lot this week, but we haven't really given credence to the other line. Ole Miss has absolutely not faced an offense like LSU, but the same is true of LSU. They have absolutely not faced an offense like what Ole Miss is going to be bringing to bear. And USC's offense is pretty good, but not as good. And again, the first game thing there as well for them. And that is the concern. I mean, right now, LSU ranks last in pass yards allowed per game, third to last in passing yards per completion, and fourth to last in scoring defense. And that's with playing only one SEC game thus far. So, you know what I think. I think statistically, this is a defense that at this time is very similar to last year's. I think in the level of technique and play and scheme and assignment discipline, I think I've seen major strides. I think they're better. I think they're probably slightly better than what they look like on paper. But that's me giving them the benefit of the doubt. You know how you prove it? You go have a successful day against Ole Miss. You don't have to dominate. You don't have to go full Kentucky because your offense is miles ahead of Kentucky's. Like, you'll put up points. Remember, you have the third best offense in the country right now, according to the S&P Plus. You'll put up, you'll put up more points. So you just got to come up with enough stops. And with that in mind, Jake, I don't want you to change your identity. You know, you want to play aggressive, create havoc. You want to go single high, challenge your DBs to play man. Game on. Let's do it. And it may result in some bad plays, but again, think to USC. What was it, 2 or 3 fumbles that weren't recovered? Definitely 2. I don't think 3.
I know it's 2 for sure.
2 massive fumbles.
For sure it was 2.
It was 2. So 2 massive fumbles that could be recovered. That ball bounced a little different. That entire game's right. That's the risk that you engage in. And that's the risk that we talked about yesterday. If you're trying to affect an upset, if you're trying to make up for a talent gap, you got to be willing to play with fire a little bit. And so, no, I don't want them to do what they did last year and come out in these soft zone coverages and just give Ole Miss everything they want. That, you know, I don't want to be on the back heel, taking the punches, trying to play defense. I want to be exposing my own chin because I'm out here attacking, throwing punches. So that's what I'd do.
No, I see what you're saying, because if you try to change and look, if you try to replicate somebody too much and you're not yourself, that's when you can get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, you can take pieces of what they did, but you try to implement them within what you do. And Blake's been aggressive his entire career until he's been. And so I would expect more of the same. Now, again, you give them different looks and end up where you've kind of always been. And if you start to really get pressure with 4, if you see their offensive line can't block Swinson and Jones and others on the edge, then maybe you can change up with what you're doing. But I feel like they are going to be a team that tries to be the aggressor. They don't try to pull a counterpunch. Last year was a counterpunch, and you got knocked out. What can you do this year? Who's going to be, you know, the people in the defensive backfield that can make the plays because you are being, a little bit aggressive in front of them?
And for Baker, man, one thing I love about the Wilson piece is, what does he have to fear? I mean, this is a man who, when he got done playing football, always told he was too small, ends up getting a scholarship to Tulane, ends up becoming a solid player there. Speaking of aggression, Jake, there was a great story. So I guess his older brother was a starting guard at Texas, and he was starting Tulane, and they played Texas And so his brother must be way bigger than him, right? But in the middle of the play, his brother says all of a sudden his cleats are in the air. He's staring up at the ceiling. His back hits the ground first, and his little brother Blake had just completely cheap shotted him, ear-holed him out of nowhere, blindside, cowboy collar on. That's that type of aggression that I like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if brother's on the field, brother's getting got.
Just blindsided older bro. But what does he have here? What I'm getting at with that is so he gets done playing football, he's doing construction. He's selling alcohol. You know? He knows what it's like to be on the normal side of life. And now he looks up. He's got a great salary, but more so than that, he's in front of 100,000 Saturday night in Death Valley in an environment that you cannot replicate. An environment that you get once, twice a year. So not that many times in your entire life. What do you have to fear? Nothing. Go out there and, like I said, man, play ballsy and see if you can make a little magic happen and start to write your own legend and start to achieve some of your own immortality. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
So what I'm hearing is Blake Baker is the ultimate foxhole guy. That's what I'm hearing.
That seems to be.
He's the ultimate foxhole guy.
It seems to be and the reason why I chose to come back is because of family.
He didn't want to leave here in the first place.
He didn't want to leave here in the first place. True. But no, it seems to be the prevailing sentiment from former players, teammates, everything is that he's just like an absolute joy to be around.
Yeah.
Apparently he can freestyle.
Really?
Yeah, his old teammates said he heard thousands of freestyles in their Tulane playing days. From like day one of camp, started freestyling.
I can see that.
Which I mean, I've always thought it's a pretty big flex if you can. I used to sit there and like think for like 10 minutes and come up with like 2 lines and then do 2 lines and then just like completely fall apart. Like a car losing its wheels.
Crumble under the lights.
Just
you just got to go.
I mean, I can't. I tried.
Like a Derek Carr losing his wheels?
Yeah. Like
So
the Derek Carr first pick.
Please.
I would complete a couple, but then I'd just off the back heel just throw it up straight up in the air.
Oh yeah, to the heavens. Somebody got to catch it.
But yeah, everybody says that he's the man in that regard. Foxhole guy.
And if you're wondering what we're talking about with being aggressive, it doesn't just mean like bringing people, adding numbers. Sure, they bring 70% of the time, but also we're talking about in coverages. They've ran cover 0 7.2% of the time. Cover 1, which is an aggressive coverage, only one deep safety, 40.3% of the time. They've only run quarters, which is very passive, 7.9% of the time. So they've almost run cover 0 as much as they've run quarters.
Yeah, I mean it's again, and so my point is, don't change who you are now. And really, I mean, so much of this comes down to Trey Harris availability. Like that is a big enough option where if you wanted to fence sit, now you know me, I'm saying LSU's winning no matter what. But if you wanted to fence sit and tell me, well, I'm picking Ole Miss unless Trey Harris is out or limited, then I'll go LSU. I actually think that's a valid opinion. That's how much Harris potentially means to this game. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that situation. But he's definitely going to give it a go. But how does he look is something that all fans should be locked into early on. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.